Is this copyright strike? Taking our money, and the Google wants some too. And I hate about complaining. It's just more cash for you. So how long is will you take my cash for? How long? I'm trying not to rhyme dong.
It's very good.
It's the oddest guitar solo, isn't it?
Ah,
Hello, friends, neighbours, relatives, boys and girls. Welcome to Crackerjack. Well, there's more crack than always on fire this week.
welcome everyone, Dan here.
Mick here, hello. Welcome to Viewers, Comments and Questions. Thank you for joining us from wherever you may be on this globe or beyond it.
Oh, beyond. Now there's an untapped market.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, after all that, we probably haven't got any audio, have we? Good morning from SoCal, says Eric Dodd. Hey, Eric, how are you? Zoot allures. Looks and sounds great. We're also wearing matchy t-shirts.
Yes. We're just so in sync.
Completely
Just
by...
unplanned.
Yeah, unplanned. It was the universe. Oh, sorry, Bebbers. I did manage to just spill half a cup of coffee in all the electrics, which was a safe thing to do. Greetings, says Duncan Plexico. Hey, Duncan, how are you? Guitar and bass dude, hi all. Eagle Ray Rob is on. Howdy, hey Rob. Todd Roy, Nova Scotia. BV, thank you so much for everything, BV. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes, wonderful.
Are we loud enough? Yeah, the meters are almost going red.
Nice.
In the old days, we'd take that as a good sign. Swansea calling, says Simon VRDJ. Hey, Simon. This is Swansea calling. Yeah, because it's Eurovision this week.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm so not up with Eurovision. Who do we have this year?
They are called Farmyard Visit or something, aren't they? What are they called?
Farmyard Visit. Brilliant.
That's
Anyway, a winning name right there.
The song is called What the Hell Just Happened, and it is bizarre. Three distinct sections that cycle.
Okay.
And it's like produced to
death.
Bejesus.
Yeah.
And it's a good enough song, but there's no like meat in it anywhere apart from the single hook.
Oh, brilliant.
And yeah.
I think there has to be some the Eurovision stuff from the UK that I have seen, and I don't follow Eurovision, but every time that I've seen it, I've just gone, what? I mean, now that is a winning Eurovision. That's it. That's the Eurovision winning song.
10 points.
2 points.
10 points. Pour les hommes de cette show de pédale. No, you can't say that word in French.
Les piscines.
Yes, you can't say that word in
Camembert.
French. It means something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we've just won.
Great.
So don't bother watching Eurovision on Saturday.
You've seen.
Waste of time.
Yeah.
We've won. Frankie Holt says you're going to grow that hair out for a Kentucky waterfall.
That made my day. That comment. So beautiful.
Matthew Collis-Long, who came to an experience day many months back, let us know that one of his offspring confidently rocks a Kentucky waterfall, which it's not called that.
Just remind the lovely people what a Kentucky waterfall is, Michael.
It is the hairstyle that we used to call the mullet here in the UK, and we've noticed that it's regaining popularity among the young people.
Right. A lot of my daughter's friends have mullets.
Moulet?
Yeah. Moulet. Le moulet.
I'm up for it. I mean, can you imagine what all our parents thought when we were having past shoulder length hair in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah. Oh,
know?
my dad was not happy.
Yeah.
About a great many things.
Anyway, I'm going to turn the super chats off because we got loads.
Okay, cool.
I want to make sure we get through them all. So I'll just turn those off and then we can get on with today's housekeeping.
Before we do that, there was a question from...
Thank you, BV.
Yes, thank you, buddy.
BV is keeping me abreast of the super chats.
Oh, lovely. There was a question who said, from Guitar Bass Dude, he said, what SG is that? So I've just got this recently back from a dear friend, Matt at Monty's, who did a refret, and it had a neck issue that Matt sorted out for me. But this is a early 1962 Gibson SG Les Paul. It was still called a Les Paul at that stage. And original path in the bridge, but a T-top in the neck, which is really interesting.
Lovely, 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 lovely guitar.
It's a really special guitar, and I still can't quite believe that I'm its custodian for the 4 seasons.
It's become better since the recent works.
Oh man, Matt has just
it's come to life.
So what happened with this guitar? When I got it, I loved it, but it had light strings on it. It had a neck repair done when I got it, which is why I was able to afford it. When I put the heavier strings on it, as time went on, I noticed it getting duller and the life seemed to be draining from it, which was causing me heartache. Anyway, took it to Matt.
Hello to our podcast listeners. Once again, I forgot to press record. Sorry. Every week. And BV reminds me. Sorry.
Yeah, and anyway, Matt was able to... we found the problem that the heavier strings had dislodged the repair in the neck. So we come up with a cunning plan. And we got the net sort of reset and glued and everything. And it's just...
It's really
oh, man,
it's a really
just love
great
it.
guitar.
I love it.
It's a great guitar. Housekeeping then. First up, let's say thank you to Gavin Mansell.
Oh, yes.
Gavin, thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy.
Gavin has sent us a bottle of alcoholic spirit.
Neuf de Pop.
From Jura, or at least it's called Jura. The Isle of Jura Distillery. A
Lovely.
single malt whiskey. Gav, thanks very much for that.
Thank you,
He came
mate.
to an experience day and he's just said thank you. So thanks, buddy. We appreciate that. We'll add it to all the other bottles of whiskey that we are going to drink one day. Maybe on the
final day.
Final day.
It'll be our... Yeah.
Yes.
We'll,
Argo Boost Deluxe is back in stock. If you were waiting for an
Yay!
Argo Boost Deluxe and you want to buy it from us, tell your brother to write his letter home, put his clothes onto the lower peg, and head to that pedal show store right now where you can buy a few more Argo Boost Deluxes if you're into that. And we have to wish a very happy 10th birthday to Verity.
Verity.
Your dad Ryan tells us you like the show, and there's two things you like about the show.
Come on.
One is the spaniel.
Up.
You're going to come here, Rose. Come on.
Come on.
Otherwise, I'm going to have to lift you up, and we don't want to do that. Come on, come on. Either on Dan or me.
Rosie.
Got any treats, Bebbers?
There we go.
We have to
There
reward. We have to reward the spaniel. Okay.
Have to reward the
Now,
spaniel.
Verity, here's Rosie to say hello to you because we know you like Rosie, and she's very intent on the treat that I've promised her, which I'm not giving her. So she's gonna off she goes to get her treat. So there's Rosie, and apparently the other thing you love, Verity, is the horn. That's for you. Probably blow the mics out, but we'll do it anyway. We hope you're having a lovely day, Verity.
Yes.
If indeed it is today. And thanks for watching with your dad, Ryan, and drumming as well.
Amazing.
Amazing.
And I believe it's your 10th birthday, and it is our 10th birthday. It's all coming together.
Wow. When you were
Amazing.
born, we were born.
Amazing.
How amazing. Anyway, happy birthday, Verity. And Ryan, thanks for doing that. Patrons, keep an eye out in your inbox. The link to May's giveaway will be going out later this week. Good luck, everybody. So if you're a patron, keep your eye on your email and make sure it's the email that you signed up to Patreon with and not a different email.
So we've Matt Swanton's come up for the next challenge. How inebriated can Dan and Mick get before they can't play? Actually, this is a challenge that we've been talking about for a long time. Get Dougie and Paddy in, and then we play something, we all have a beer, play something else, and then we just see at what point. It'd be 2 beers for me.
Yeah.
Before you're yelling at me, and then then I reckon you'd be the last man standing.
I resemble that implication.
But it's very interesting because I've heard recordings of myself and having a beer and then being full of confidence and hearing listening back going, ooh, no. It's very interesting, the effects of alcohol.
That's every recording I listen to of me, regardless of alcohol intake level.
Yes, but
So, all right, we'll do it. We'll have to put up loads of disclaimers.
Yeah, of course.
So
it's for scientific purposes.
The fun police and those more serious.
That's where we get the whiskey out. Yeah, okay.
I'd be broken on that. And those more seriously affected by alcohol, we don't want to upset anybody, but at the same time, we do want to get drunk and play the guitar. So
for science.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know I'm not going there. I'm not going there.
Okay.
I was about to say it'd be about as reliable as most other science stands.
Well,
so, yeah.
but science.
Yeah. Good. Frankie Holt says, I get sleepy long before I get drunk. I envy people that can drink and have fun. I sort of feel you, Frankie.
Well, interesting.
I think it is to do with the environment that you're in.
Right.
Yeah. Like if the first bottle of wine on a Friday night, I feel great. Then
the first bottle.
By the fourth, I'm asleep. I know it's a lie. I don't.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
It's a lie.
Okay. Right. Let's not glorify the consumption of alcohol anymore.
No.
It is the best thing in the world. Sorry, alcoholics. You're way past all of this. You're in control of it. Plexigo, Duncan is first in with the super chats this week.
Surprise, surprise. Duncan, thank you so much, mate. We so appreciate you. That's so kind.
Duncan says, hey Dan and Mick, with UK-US ties stronger than ever, is it time for an Origin Effects cross Strymon collaboration? Brit Analog meets Cali Digital multi-effects dream pedal. That would be a
very interesting collaboration.
A good collaboration. Yeah, nice suggestion. Nice suggestion. I
wonder that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if So
I'm sort of surprised that Origin haven't delved digital at this point, because they're super on it with the quality of the build, the dedication to the circuits.
Yeah, but I think that's what they're passionate about.
Right.
I think for them it perhaps would feel like digital would just be ticking a box, which would be fine, but their stuff is so good. They are, when they first come on the scene, super inspired by the old 1176s, and they took that, the first series of those pedals were massive and had the big transformers, and they were really serious, and they were able to make them more compact, but they've always held that quality and pure commitment to audio and the analog nature.
Yeah.
So but seeing them use that and collaborate with someone who was all over the digital thing would be very interesting. There's some such interesting brands out there at the moment.
I think
and collabs are so fun.
Strymon might well argue, yeah, all right, we're digital, but we get it.
Yeah.
We don't need any help, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
I think that would be their thing.
Maybe,
as well.
maybe.
And
Anyway,
they're so big.
Duncan, thank you for a thought-provoking question, as always. So I am speeding up ever so slightly because we do have a lot of super chais. Ragged Glory Sound. Thanks for the accidental name drop. Yeah, I couldn't remember it when we did the video, but it was Ragged Glory was the album I was trying to remember.
Oh, cool.
The Neil Young record. And Crazy Horse. Dan already has a pedal, but I need to send you my latest toy. A 2-valve EP preamps in one box. Joey Landreth told me it's his new favourite boost.
Oh, wow.
It's Nathan, for the orchestra guy.
Oh, wicked.
You've changed your name to Ragged Glory Sound. We love it, Nathan.
That's brilliant, mate. That's brilliant. Yeah, I used one of Nathan's pedals actually on my EP. It's the solo sound for the track Cortisone. And I was really bereft of ideas and going through. And Nathan had when I went to see the London Symphony Orchestra that he was looking after.
Yeah.
He said, "I want you to try this
Casually
out."
looking after the London Symphony Orchestra.
It's amazing.
As you do.
And I plugged it into the match list, and it was like, it was
That'll do.
perfect.
That'll
it was
do.
so good.
I
Yeah,
thought
well
the drums
done, mate.
sound great on Cortisone, actually.
Yeah, well, recorded with so we'd had, this is the fourth time we've recorded drums for this track, and we just continually came up against problems. And then, so
Eventually
Mick
employed a professional.
exactly, Mick was very kind and said, "Come, bring them to the studio, record them here." And
I'd just like to caveat that and say I have literally no
They
idea.
sound-
we just followed our nose and
they
did it.
sound fantastic.
Yeah, sound right.
First take.
Doug,
First take is the one.
we spent time setting up, getting the sounds, making sure Doug was happy.
Yep.
So should we just go for one then?
Yep.
And as the track progressed, everyone's kind of, I'm looking at Dan, looking at the screen, trying not to look at anybody. And get to the end and I'm like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think we need to do another.
No, it was perfect.
And that was that.
Yeah, it was so good.
2 hours of driving, 4 hours of setup,
Yep.
4 minutes of playing,
Yep.
done.
Yeah, wonderful.
Nice to hear from you, Nathan. Really, really good to hear from you, buddy. I have a memory of standing outside, is it Bush Hall in London, where the Landreths played, and chatting while we all loaded stuff into vans.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Lovely. Nathan, remind me the name of that pedal, because it's not written on there. It's I think it's based on the old Green Ring Stinger or something like that. Yeah. Green Ring Stinger. All. Yeah. Very cool. Very, very
an
cool.
interesting weekend.
Mm.
SWiz872 says, "Hello Leggins, I'll be travelling to England in July and August and was wondering if you had any 10th anniversary celebrations planned around that time." We don't have anything planned yet. We keep talking about it, but we just don't have anything planned. Because every time we come to plan something, something happens. So, I don't know. I have like this much capacity to plan things. So, yeah. And Dan,
We would love
Dan
to.
does too, and Catherine does too. So we're just being a bit shit.
Yeah,
is
we
the
would
truth.
love to. We would love to. We just have to decide, make a decision, because the one of the problems is that it's challenging, being that so many of our friends are in America and not really, America being so big. We'd love to do something that involves everyone, but we're limited. We can, okay, the best we can do is some sort of celebratory thing in the UK, and it's like, as fun as it would be, and I think 10 years deserves to be celebrated. I honestly think it's a great, it's a milestone for us.
I did do a load of design work on Friday, so we will
look
have some
great.
merch.
They look great.
We will have some merch to flog.
Yeah. But I'd love to do so. I'd love to book the 6 and have a couple of artists come down and play, and it'd be great fun. Yeah.
Nice. So enjoy your time in England in July
Yes,
and
mate.
August. Hope you enjoy it. Michael Giliberto. Hey Michael, good to hear from you. He says, "Hi D&M. Great content in the acoustic and tweed episodes. Brings me joy while I continue to heal from surgery."
Oh,
we
buddy.
wish you well, Michael.
Yeah, get better soon, mate.
What's your current favourite guitar? Which one do you pick up most often?
For this one, I can't stop playing this guitar.
But I bet when you rehearse, it's red.
So the gigs I'm doing at the moment, I've got 3 guitars I'm using: this, red, and the Jag, and they all have very specific jobs. If I could only use one guitar, it's red, but just playing at home and this is the guitar I'm gravitating towards. I've just connected with it in a really lovely way. It's not like tonally, it's not anywhere near as flexible as red. Red's such a special guitar, but I'm just loving being on the SG journey.
It's a great thing.
Yeah.
It's a great thing. Strat for me, my old Strat, 61 Strat. which is the one that I want to play and the one that I feel most comfortable playing. But the one that everyone says sounds best is either of the two Gibsons, so the Goldtop Les Paul or the 345. And to a person, everyone says the 345 sounds best.
Right. That's such a
of all the guitars I play.
guitar.
So I am playing that quite a bit, and I play it in 2 of the bands. And now the work's been done on it, it's much easier to live with. So yeah, but the Strat really. Get well, Michael. We hope your recovery is swift and problem free.
Yep. Hello, Sailor. Joe, g'day, mate.
Hey, Joe.
He said, why not do a 10th anniversary TPS band gig? That would be fun. That would be fun. Again, it's all wrapped up in the organising and booking people and are you available and can we rehearse? And it's like, you know, maybe.
We don't sound beaten down by this, do we, at all?
Well, what would be interesting...
In June and July, I've got 4 gigs with 4 different bands.
Right.
So it is possible when somebody else does all the organising.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When they say, play the guitar, agree the set list, turn up, sing and play the guitar, I can do that part.
What we should do, because you get your band to do a set, my band will come and do a set, and then we'll do something at the end.
Yeah, but somebody's got to organise the gig.
Yeah.
The playing part's easy. If someone else organised the gig, we could have a TPS band. Couldn't we?
We could.
It's just selling the tickets and like, oh God, no, I'll just stop. I'll stop. I'll stop. Basil Tiffany says, what's the fewest number amps it could be reasonable to own?
I think this.
I would say 3.
Yeah. You could, yeah, that's a very good number.
A big one, a medium one, and a small one. Yeah.
Dude, I've been thinking about this a lot, right?
Cadogan Hall. Sorry, Nathan. Cadogan Hall, not Bush Hall.
Cadogan Hall. So I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't know how we do it, but like at rehearsal, I'm using the Lazy J, which is a loud amp, but I have it very quiet, and the Princeton. And in that little space, it's like really loud. But in here, it would be fine. But on a big stage, it would be, I could definitely use a bit more. And I would love to explore, I don't know how we do it, but I'd love to explore the right amp for the right room. Because
I know at the gigs I've got coming up in June and July, the bigger the stages get, the more I'm going to get moaned at for volume.
Oh, interesting.
100%.
Okay. Because I teched for Robin Ford on Friday.
Woo!
And it was fascinating. He played at Islington Assembly Hall, sold it out, and he had 2 of the little Walter amps, 150 watt, 100 watt, both going, and you know, he's 3-piece with Johnny on keys and Ianto Thomas on drums. Oh my goodness, he's astonishing.
I was
And
supposed to go. I just forgot. I forgot. My friend Alistair bought tickets for us both to go, and we both forgot.
okay,
So when I say I've got that much capacity to do stuff,
that's what happens.
That is the fact of it.
Yeah. And he was loud, but completely appropriate for, you know, in that room with a packed amount of people. And it's like, okay, that's really interesting. And you know, you and I both know doing gigs with loud bands in various sized rooms, and it's like, I remember having different amps for different venues. I used to play it a lot. I would love to explore, when does a 100 watt amp work? When does a 10 watt amp work? That video you did with Joe Bonamassa when he had that tiny little lamp in the bathroom. I mean, that's a perfect example.
Well, we talk about, but it would be utterly useless on any stage.
Completely, yeah, completely.
Because there's no, we talk about this a lot with recording versus live. They're just 2 totally different disciplines.
Yeah.
You need different gear for recording and playing live. I'm convinced of it.
Sure.
I'm convinced of it. Because it's much easier to get a really big, great sound out of a small amp.
Yeah.
Recorded, but virtually impossible to do that on stage unless you've got killer monitors.
Yeah. I saw a gig with Ronnie Wood and Mick Taylor at the 100 Club, or is it the 100 Club in London? And they both had these tiny little tweed amplifiers. Barely heard them all night, and they were just trying to get more out of it. It sounded great at soundcheck, but when the band started laying into it, just way too quiet. But anyway, I think that'd be a fun thing. I know we're running behind. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep. WT1701 says, "Hi DNM, I have a 64 Vox AC10 twin. Very nice.
What colour?
And a 79 Vibrolux. I've read that using vintage amps as wet dry or in stereo can cause fireworks if I'm not careful. Appreciate any advice." No, that is just
fake news, buddy. Fake news.
Lies. Artificial information once again.
Been using vintage amps for wet dry forever, and they're amazing. I've got a 59 AC10 twin fawn cover.
That is a remarkable amp.
It's wonderful, and I was playing that. Like, that amp has been part of the dual amp wet dry setup for ages.
Yeah.
Spectacular amp. I'm considering reinstigating that.
It just sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Just be aware that all the usual rules apply. So you need to split the signal. If you want to do wet dry or stereo, you need to split the signal somewhere, and you need to make sure one side is phase reversible and isolated. So if the two amps happen to be out of phase, which they are highly likely to be, you can just flip the phase on one of the amps. Plus the second one has isolation, ground isolation, so you won't get any hum issues. If you can do those two things, any two amps in the world use them wet dry.
Completely.
New, old, or yet to be made, which would be more difficult in this paradigm.
Yeah.
Enjoy. I would imagine that there's some fairly serious sounds to come out of those two amplifiers.
Oh, absolutely.
You lucky man.
Absolutely.
Sergio Rodriguez. Hey Sergio, how are you?
Greetings.
He says, "Hey DNM, for home practice and recording, I use a Cornell Plexi 7,
Nice.
a Telecaster SG, and a board. RC booster, broadcast, light speed, Red Llama, Flint, but I ordered a Kingsley Page. How would you redo my board with that?"
Yeah, so the Kingsley Page, now it depends what you're using each of those gain stages. What's their job? Because it's one thing to say you've got the Red Llama, but the Red Llama is an amazing overdrive pedal. It's also an amazing boost. I used that as my main boost for a long time with 10 Spirits, and it's a really gorgeous sounding thing. So, and then like the Page is a tube boost, but again, it's a awesome, like crank the gain up, and it's just overdrive honey. So you may find, depending on how you're using your pedals and how you want to use the Page, find the sound of the Page that you love, and it may well make something redundant. It may not.
Yeah, because you've got some crossover there with the RC booster, broadcast, light speed, and Red Llama. They're all fairly open sounding boosty drivey things. There's no TS in there, or there's no DS1 or anything that has a very, very sort of specific sound. And one thing the Page is brilliant at is more.
Yeah, it's so good at that.
A slightly fatter more, and it is just superb at that.
Yeah.
Where my rig's ended up, I've got maybe 4 stages of gain, and in different combinations, it's about most importantly, it's about volume. So what do you want to do with your volume by stacking overdrives? Do you want to make it louder for solos? Do you want to keep it sort of similar for a different texture? Then it's about level of drive. How overdrivey do you want it? And that really plays straight into the volume thing, because the more overdrivey you have, the louder it has to be.
Yeah.
Because you've got more compression going on in the overdrive, and you just won't be heard if you've got loads of overdrive at the same volume. You need much more volume. And then lastly for me, it's about where do the mids and the trebles sit. The bass, I don't really care, because in a band mix, you don't want too much of that anyway. But it's where are the mids? Are they chewy? Are they humpy? Are they tube screamery? Are they clonny? in order for your cut, the vocal part of your guitar sound. And then where is the treble? Like, is it bitey, harsh, square type distortion like you'd get out of a broadcast with a good amount of tone rolled on? Or is it thick, rolled off top end for something like what you might consider the classic double sound to be? That kind of thing. And so the combinations, as Dan was alluding, and we've covered this in shows, it doesn't really matter which pedal is doing what thing. It's how are they set?
Yeah.
And what is the desired outcome? And once you've got 4, 5, 6 gain stages, it can be really easy to get confused.
Yeah.
And not really have it. I think 2 to 3 volume control on the guitar, you can get most of it done.
Yeah.
Unless you're playing a set that's got wildly different sounds.
Yes, of course. Yeah. I think
game.
I've pared mine down to, well, no, including the treble booster, it'd be 4.
Yeah, to be fair, I've got 5.
Yeah, yeah. But
fuzz boost, 2 overdrives, 1 more overdrive.
But I think where we are, we've done so much work in finding those specific pedals for specific things, and we've both paired our rigs back. You know, my board still is massive, but still paired back for me. But it's been a long time getting to that combination of pedals and stuff. So the work's been done.
And what's the application?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That really helps you hone it down, I think. Anyway, what does the Page do? I think you'll turn it in, you'll plug it in, you'll turn it on, and you'll be like, oh, that's what an overdrive pedal should sound like.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Because
you're going to go, okay, I've got the Page now, I'm going to need the Harlot and the,
Yeah. Cool, have fun,
yeah,
Sergio.
mate, have fun, that's great.
Sunbear Pickups is on.
Oh, okay.
Hi both. Quick note to say it was great to catch you at Robin's London show, Dan. Must have been a trip to see that 52 you helped with on stage.
Yeah, that was wonderful. So
you played it, Goldtop.
Yeah, the Goldtop. It's so crazy. So Robin was looking for a Goldtop. ATB had three of them, and at the Birmingham Guitar Show, he had them there. So I sent some videos of them to Robin and said that I'd go up to ATB and we'll have a play and we'll check them out. He was away in tour in Australia. So I went up to ATB. I was in Cheltenham doing something with Matt. So I popped in to have a look at them. And there was 3 of them and they're all amazing. But the 52 had the original trapeze thing on it. It's the most original vintage guitar I've ever seen. It had never been played. Still got the old tagger on it, right? Original strings, it was crazy. And someone had bought it, put it in the case, stored it. That was it. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And I played it and I just went, nope, this is not the guitar. It had never been played. It felt really tight and just, nothing going on. I said to Robin, okay, there's a couple of other guitars here. I don't think this is the one. Robin comes down. We're sat in the room with these 3 guitars. He picks this up and he just plays it for half an hour. Over that half an hour, there's me, Mike, and Steve and his assistant. And we listen. Over half an hour, the guitar just opens up. And we're all going, is this really happening? But in half an hour, it was the only choice. It was crazy. So we get the bridge. The guys at Music City sent Robin the bridge, so it's a wrap over. That was a whole thing. But anyway, did the work on it, got it all set up, and he played it for the first time on Friday. So his first gig is with Robin Ford at a sold-out show in London. And far out, man. It was just remarkable.
Oh,
absolutely remarkable. Yeah, so it was really, really great.
If it had never been played, I wonder. They say that, and I don't know how true this is. Whenever I bought new pickups, the maker always says play it for half an hour before you decide if you like the pickups.
Yeah,
or not.
right. Yeah. So yes, and Sunday pickups. He sent me home with a set of pickups to try.
Oh, cool.
In the Huber
Oh, nice.
with a staple P90
yeah,
for the neck.
Everyone I've talked to about Sunbird pickups says they love them.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm really excited to give that a go
Nice.
because I love the Huber, but I've never managed to get the pickups. We've tried a few.
Yeah.
There's always been an imbalance between the P90 and the humbucker.
It's a very middly guitar, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's got
yeah,
such
yeah,
a
yeah.
honk on it.
Yeah.
You've almost got to surrender to the honk and say, this is
This
a
is
honky guitar.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Not in a pejorative way, by the way, just it has an EQ curve that's very, very specific.
Mm-hmm.
Simon VRDJ has come in with 3 questions. Thank you, Simon. We'll be seeing you later this month. He says, greeting gentle bods of the tinterwebs. Do you think a guitar strap should match, complement, or go against the look of the guitar, and why?
I never really paid much attention to it until 2 things happened. One, we had our own guitar straps made.
And they, of course, are the best guitar
And they
straps
are-
in the world.
Well, they're incredible. To be fair, they are wonderful.
They're beautiful.
And
They're made by Housekeeping.
yeah, they're just really, really special things.
leather with leather.
Yeah, check that
I
out.
gotta get home.
So just the way that these straps are made, and just the way it sits on your shoulder, it's like, oh, okay, this is really cool. But the other thing is, Robin, his guitar straps,
Yeah, they're super groovy, aren't they?
so bling. They're so cool. It's like, actually, it's part of the whole look and feel and stuff. And you know what? It's important.
Yeah.
It's important to get it right.
I think it should complement one's clothing for sure.
Definitely.
So that's why I would always go for brown or black leather with very minimal design.
Right.
Because I'm going to be wearing something that goes with brown or black leather.
Right.
Similarly, unless you get it very wrong, dark brown leather or black leather is going to go with pretty much most guitar finishes. Because it's a natural material, right? It's like, well, steel isn't a natural material, but you know what I mean.
I do.
It's like rock,
Yeah.
steel, leather,
Yeah.
wood.
Stone.
All that stuff looks good together.
Completely.
And then once you introduce nylon to the game, this is a strap I bought when we played the Cavern with Andy Timmons.
Oh, fantastic.
And I bought it for keepsake, obviously. And that's okay, black and white, that'll go with pretty much anything. But of course the trouble with a nylon strap is the slipping nature.
Yeah.
And plenty of people get on well with it. Anyway, so I think it should complement the guitar and the clothing one is wearing.
Yes. I was...
Same as a nice tie, if you ever are unfortunate enough to have to wear a suit.
Yeah.
Or if you're fortunate enough to choose to wear a suit.
Very good. See, he twisted it.
It's
he
simple,
twisted it. It's like such a fine line.
So there we go. Let us know your thoughts on guitar straps. Simon's second question is, question 2, would you trust the viewer of the show? No. It's a joke. It's just a joke. Would you trust the viewer of a viewer of the show, to build you a pedal board out of the kit you have at TPS and do a gig with it? I volunteer to do it. Yeah, why not? Yeah. I think the absolute fact of that matter is I wouldn't trust anyone to do anything with my gear if there was a gig involved.
Yeah.
I just...
Yeah. I'll tell you why.
Not even Dan.
But I tell you why, because we're at a stage now. If we were playing 5 nights a week and we were 25 and someone said, let me build your pedal board, yeah, no problem. The stage we're at now, the gigs are few and far between and they're all quite special and we put a lot into them. So, I'm happy to very much go to the nth degree to make sure everything is as good as it possibly can be for gigs now. But back in the day when there were just so many gigs, that would have been different.
Yeah, you cared less. You're right. They're precious. They're more precious, aren't they?
They are.
Now,
I really feel it now.
because they're as you say, less frequent. And so it's a moment to savour. Oh, sorry, my phone is binging and I'm just making sure that BV isn't telling me something incredibly important. No, everything is groovy. Good. Good. And Simon's third question. Thank you, Simon. Final question. This is Simon VRDJ. He says, after a top-notch gig, you have a vast choice of cake, sandwiches and drinks at the after party. What would you go for?
What would you go for?
I don't drink beer anymore because it makes me depressed. But I would have one beer to chug, one ice-cold Pilsner beer to chug. And I think after a gig with all the adrenaline and everything, I could handle it. A bottle of red wine, and then
What bottle? Malbec? Is that your choice? What's your choice of grape?
well, Pinot Noir usually.
Oh, that's nice.
But
Refreshing.
I've been into me Cab Savs recently.
Oh, that's very good. That's very 90s of you.
Well, yeah, but a really good one. And I've been enjoying Californian wine just recently.
Oh, okay.
In a way that I've never been able to do before. But then, you just... A good bottle of... Yeah, and it's getting... It seems to be going up in price significantly, but...
In every way possible.
A nice bottle of proper Pinot Noir
Right.
from the right place in France, but it's so hard. It's just like 30 quid for a half decent bottle now.
Okay.
And that is too much
Yep.
for quaffing.
Yep.
So any red wine, Lidl value red wine would be fine after a gig.
Nice.
And food-wise, nothing too heavy. Dan and I have advancing years at this point, or at least progressing years, as we all are, but we've got quite a lot of friends who've done loads and loads of touring over the years. And loads of late night gigs, and I know a goodly handful of them who have esophageal and throat problems caused by late night gorging.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't eat late.
Because you eat late, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And it just old. I mean, I can remember being I remember being 17 years old, coming back from a gig, buying a kebab and having the extra chili sauce, and my mate Steve jumping out the van and putting his head in a puddle because he was burning so hard. Do you remember? Paul, do you remember? Paul normally watches this. Steve sometimes does as well. And then coming back in with like leaves and mud on his face and stuff. It's like, those days are over. And you didn't think anything of it, did you, the next day?
So I'd have a G&T before the gig. I find that's energy. That's like it's energizing.
Yeah.
After the gig, probably an espresso martini.
Oh, no, that's classy.
It's great.
That's classy.
But I wouldn't be eating. It'd be way too late for me to consume anything.
Yeah.
I'd have I'd have a second espresso martini for my dinner.
Yeah, I would have something very, very light. Maybe a peanut.
Yeah, that'd do.
With some sushi, actually, that would work.
Yeah.
Some nicely made sushi. Or some sort of vindaloo.
Oh, see, that's how we go on the just reckless abandon scale. But if it gets to that point where curry's involved, that is the only option.
Yeah.
Curries and beer.
There you go.
That's it.
There you go.
Okay. There you go. That's it. Yeah.
There we are. Lots of nice wine suggestions coming in. Yeah, lovely. Lovely. There we are.
There you go.
My
It's
belly is
mention of
telling
curry.
me it's time to do it. Thank you for your questions, Simon. Pete Geog Egan, which is probably an Irish name, is it? Geog Egan. Pete Geog Egan. Sorry, Pete. You'll have to tell us. Why does amp tremolo sound better to me than pedal tremolo? Is it due to where the volume is being modulated? Deep within the amp as opposed to in front of it? it certainly feels different to me.
So the amp tremolo is generally a bias trem, and that bias trem is done with the power stage. And if you imagine that the modulation of amplitude has actually been done at the power valves, it's such an impossibly cool thing to do. Now think about taking that sound of a couple of valves, your output stage, that is giving you your modulation of your amplitude. Now try and take that process and put it in a solid state pedal. It's a very difficult thing to do. There are pedals that do it brilliantly, but once you've heard a really wonderful amp trem, it's very difficult to unhear that. The reason that Joey has 2 different tremolo circuits in his amp is because it's such a big part of his sound. It's like, well, I've got to have it. If I'm having a signature amp made, they've got to be in there. It's a very cool thing.
Yeah, one other reason might be the order of effects. So, given that tremolo is always, if it's a biased tremolo, like Dan said, there's quite a lot of amps that also have some sort of op amp that will do it, but in a really super cool vintage amp, it'll tend to be a biased tremolo, like he says, which means the reverb usually comes before it, if there is reverb.
Mm-hmm.
Everything comes before it because it's on the output tubes, right? But if you've got it on your board, quite often you'll have the tremolo before the reverb. And if you like using reverb, that is a completely different vibe to having... It's why the Strymon Flint offers you the opportunity to switch the order.
Yes.
So that could be one reason why you dig it. But like Dan says, it's... Yeah, you're exactly as you say as well. You're up and downing the volume into the front of the amp, or you're doing it right at the end, and that has all kinds of tonal effects.
Yep.
It's such a cool sound, tremolo, isn't it?
Yeah. But if you haven't done this, make sure you've tried the tremolo at the very end of your chain.
Yeah.
One of the early
Similarly, you could put it in your effects loop if you want it even further down the chain.
Yeah, if your amp has an effects loop. But one of the really early shows that we did was showing what happens when you put tremolo at the end of your signal path, and it was like, oh, okay, that's what's going on the majority of the valve amps. And I think that was the show that Joey Landreth watched and went, oh, this is cool. Was our...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But trems are, very, very cool effect.
Yeah, there you go. Hope that answers it. CM Adelaide from your home country, Daniel.
Oh, lovely.
Greetings from Adelaide.
I like Adelaide. It's very pretty.
We had to land there because we couldn't land in Melbourne.
Right.
And getting off the plane was steps down to the ground as opposed to like a walkway.
Oh, okay.
I was like...
Yeah, that's Adelaide.
I have... talk about a time difference. It's like, 25 years.
No, it's very
nice. It was misty.
A lot of English people settled in Adelaide because the climate was very similar.
Oh, right. Yeah. I've just bought a Mike Campbell telly. Says CM.
Nice. They look amazing.
It's nitro. It's got single coil and 2 humbuckers, a Bigsby, and it has a destructor button with 34 dB of boost. How can they do that from a passive circuit? There's no... While we were mucking about doing other things, I had a quick Google of it, and there's not much information on it anywhere.
Okay, so it would be a transformer of some kind, and the way they would wind the transformer is that you would have your primary and your secondary would be wound to give you more output. But of course, Ohm's law means that it's going to load the signal differently, but it's certainly doable. There's a really great pedal company, Bigfoot Effects, that do loads of these passive pedals, and they sound fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
And they're all transformer
Hey,
based.
Reese, if you happen to be watching this.
So you probably see inside, if it's probably a little encased in goop little black box with some terminals going into it, and it'll be a transformer doing that job.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. If anyone has any intel on that, please give it up. Good. Wadey 1960 CS. Wadey 1960 CS says, that pedal show. I hope you're both well this evening. We are.
Wonderful, thank you.
Dan, I got my Dark Side of the Moon from Terry this week. What a flipping great pedal.
Isn't it though?
The LED cycling through the prism colours is a classy touch.
Yeah, yeah. So this is the fuzz now on my board. And I'm doing a video, my pedal board update, and I'll take you through it. But bless him, Joe at Hello Sailor, it was given to him to give to me, and DevTech Audio, and I had heard of them, but anyway, it was called Dark Side of the Moon, and I thought I don't really like the name, but I plugged it in, and it was like, oh man, what a killer sounding fuzz. Some really nice tweakable controls, and it also works with a buffer. So really clever design that is super flexible, and you can stick anywhere in your signal chain. But it's very much authentic 70s rich fuzz, and I was like, yeah, it hasn't left the board since it's been on there. I think it's really wonderful, and like made beautifully, like the workmanship. It's all, it's all proper components, and there's a lot going on to do this. You got 3 different EQ components in there, and very, very clever, wonderful, wonderful sounding thing.
Have we had it on the show?
No, we'll have it. We'll have it on soon. You know what I'll do? Next time we film, I'll bring it out so you can have a listen to it. But I just, yeah, it's really, really killer. I was interviewed for Guitarist magazine. They're asking me what my 5 favourite recent pedals were, and that was one of them.
Nice.
Yeah,
actually, you had it at the last experience day, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice.
Oh, hang on. Joe says, actually, Dan, it was mine. I just knew you would love it more than me. Oh, buddy. God bless you, Joe. You're the gift that keeps on giving.
Literally. Bless you, mate. That is super kind of you, buddy.
I was out with Robin on Thursday. Joe came down and sat in with the gig rig. We did it with the boys without me.
Oh, I didn't.
I
saw it was happening, and I was in the middle of doing something else. I thought I must catch up. I must catch up and watch that.
No, it was great. Thank you, Joe.
Morley Robertson. Hey, Morley. He says, D&M, any opinions on the non-MOSFET Fulltone Full-Drive 2?
Yeah, I prefer it. I prefer the non-MOSFET version. Just me. Just saying.
BV is saying, I believe there is a battery in the control panel and trim pots for gain and volume.
Are they what in the
Mike
telly?
Campbell
Yeah,
telly?
well, there you go.
Yeah, I was thinking it just sounds unlikely you'd get that level of.
Yeah, because that's a weird
Yeah.
transform, but you
Thanks,
have to,
BV.
Yeah, thank you, buddy.
I found one for next to nothing. This is the non-MOSFET Fulltone Full-Drive version V2, and it's hard to find any info on that version. They changed quickly, didn't they?
They did. So I've got mine out there actually in the cupboard. It's a really cool thing. My favourite setting was the comp cut.
Yeah.
And it just had this beautiful clarity to it.
Which presumably is a clip-in diodes thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like, for those of you who know, and I don't know if the original version 2 MOSFET had the 3-position switch or not, or the comp cut mode, so we could be getting confused. General consensus of opinion is the non-MOSFET ones sound slightly darker, fatter and warmer, and the MOSFET ones a little more brightness. But
that's interesting. I much prefer the non-MOSFET.
Yeah.
And I like bright things. I didn't have any issue with the level of brightness, but there was the richness to the non-MOSFET one.
I had a blue one, I don't know what it was. And I had a red one actually, I don't know what that was.
The red is the MOSFET one, the blue is the non-MOSFET.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, enjoy, Morley. Enjoy.
Yeah, that's great.
And I want to say the MOSFET affects the boost section only, but I could be entirely wrong about that.
Yeah.
No,
They're great.
Sorry, we don't have any more useful information. Yeah, I'm just looking at a thread on the TD PRI, which is usually quite good. There's usually some good stuff on there, historically speaking. Yeah, so it might be worth just pouring through some of that. People are saying generally the MOSFET is brighter.
Right, okay.
I mean, I'm always surprised by this because if you turn the tone down to 0, it won't be bright at all.
Okay, right.
So,
okay.
Anyway, enjoy.
Matthew Frifly says, Analog Man is selling the Electra circuit to install into your guitar for the Mike Campbell signature. It's for sure not passive. There you go. There you go. And they also did the MOSFETs in blue, says CL. Thank you, mate. But yeah, and I've got an old one, and it's I had no idea that it was related to the TS9 at all. Yeah. And for the cleaner, sort of just on the edge of things. Well, I just never gravitated towards the sound. It doesn't sound like a tube screamer to me.
No.
Certainly in the setting that I had it was full and rich.
Open.
Yeah,
well, that was the comp cut mode.
That's it. That's the mode that I used it in. That's great.
Victor Gustafsson. Hey, Victor.
Hey,
nice
mate.
to hear from you. He says, evening feet. What are your thoughts on vintage Partsacaster builds? There's a local 74 build, all parts from 74. I'm getting it valued at the local shop.
Great.
Well, Eric Clapton's Strats, definitely Blackie was a Partsacaster.
Really?
Yeah, he used to. The legend goes that he would buy them when 50s Fenders were not crazy expensive in the 70s. He'd buy a bunch, swap the bodies and necks over.
Isn't Stevie Ray Vaughan's, wasn't his number one Strat a Partsacaster as well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
59 neck, 63 body, is it?
Is it hard to get it wrong?
I don't know. I mean, I've never really done extensive trying with it, but obviously Clappers assumed that he liked this body with that neck. And, and I think he give one to Steve Winwood and he gave one to somebody else of the other bits.
This thing came up on Facebook today of Clappers playing the Fool guitar during that interview. His tone with that SG, that's it.
Yeah, any from the Cream period for me, whether it's 335 SG or Firebird a little bit, but.
And the guy's interviewing him in his BBC voice. Oh, what is?
Yeah.
Tell me about what's happening with that wah-wah pedal. It's the sound of.
Well, you see, I can change the sound. I can make it more vocal, you know.
I've got to hit it to turn it on. Hang on, bang. But these little throwaway things that he comes out with just is like, I never really turned on to Clapton until I heard that clip, and I was like, what on earth is that? It was really astonishing. It's just the sound of that SG, and the Marshalls are obviously heaving.
That's the sound. I mean, just as a matter of pure opinion, then when the 70s came, and it was all Strats and all that, I was like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that sound in Blues Breakers as well, of course, but the Cream guitar sounds, they were, I mean, unequivocally some of the best guitar sounds ever in the world, ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Easily ever.
Yeah.
And again, as a point of opinion, I'm like no massive Clapton fan.
Yeah. So, is that mainly SGs in that period?
Cream, I think they did some recording with Les Pauls.
Right.
But there was famously the Fool SG, which Todd Rundgren either now still owns or did own for a long time.
You know that Dave Gregory recorded the solo for Supergirl on that guitar?
Yeah, you told me. Yeah. So there's the SG. There was a 64 335.
Oh.
Cherry red one.
Okay.
That was around a lot.
Is that Sunshine of Your Love? Is that guitar?
I don't know.
Right, okay.
I don't know specifically. Cream fans will know, but you'll see in the various photos and stuff. And then there was Firebirds as well, but I don't know the ins and outs of what guitar on what track, but that's what he was playing.
Do you think the Hendrix thing made him pick up a Strat? Because I know that
Well,
Hendrix...
Todd Royer said Clapton got a permanent Strat. Wonder where he got that from. Nice one, Todd.
Because he was blown away by Hendrix, right?
Yeah.
It was an existential crisis for him when he heard Hendrix.
A little bit, yeah. Well, you know, extrapolating from bits of biographies that I've read, I don't know for sure, but it wouldn't be a huge leap to suggest that was the case. And also, I think like any true artist,
that's right.
I think he was very happy to progress.
Okay.
Like Yardbirds to Blues Breakers. All change. He walks out of Blues Breakers quite quickly to join Cream. All change.
Right. Yeah.
Cream lasts a short amount of time, really.
Changed the world.
And off he goes into his, well, eventually in the mid-70s, into his like pseudo-country music man phase.
Yeah, okay.
So he's, like any great artist, absolutely open and willing to change rather than just hanging on that thing that he was famous for. You know, I don't suppose that many... Anyway, blah, blah, blah. I could talk about that all day. What a sound, though.
Oh.
What a sound. What a sound.
I would love to know what he was... There were Marshalls in the background. Stacks of Marshalls in the background. And yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I just don't know how you do that for a prolonged period.
No.
As you know, Dan and I like volume.
Yeah.
And I love volume. But standing next to two plexis with 4x12s for 3 nights on the trot would kill you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move right along. Oh, so we think, Victor, it could... Why not, you know? Great guitar. And the other thing about that is, and vintage guitars in general, pristine examples of desirable vintage guitars are great if you're a collector and or brave stroke Joe Bonamassa, because you can just go out and play them with, you know, it doesn't matter if they... Well, it does matter, but you're not worried so much about them getting broken or whatever. What's great about Partzacasters and guitars with issues and few repairs and stuff is A, they're much cheaper to buy in the first place, cheaper, you know, relatively speaking, but also you're not that worried if they pick up a ding or you have to make some modification to make it work for you. I'm a big fan of
Me too.
what we refer to as player grade vintage guitars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for player grade vintage guitars, we wouldn't have vintage guitars.
No, it wouldn't be possible.
But we both are very convinced about the, you know, whatever it is that happens with vintage guitars. So having this conversation with Robin on Thursday, and he's like, Robin is convinced now that it is just the age. He says the playing does have something to do with it, but he says he's got guitars that were late 60s that were nothing. Now, so they've just opened up. That's funny. It is really interesting. And do I remember, you know, everyone saying, you know, the pre-CBS guitars, they're the ones to have, and you wouldn't touch anything, you know, post-CBS. Now those, and they, man alive, you listen to... Ainsley,
Robin Trower,
far out. You know, they're amazing guitars. So
yeah. I'm with you on the vintage thing though. And if it is just psychosomatic,
that'll do.
Which I don't think it is, but if it is, okay.
Yeah.
whatever gets you in the moment, isn't it?
Completely.
I'm going to do an updated... I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm going to do an updated vlog on the recording stuff because lots of people have asked for it. And also a sort of 10 years feels like an appropriate time to do it. And I was thinking about what to say in it. And the general theme of it is... I don't think... You know, we've gone all analog front and back with a digital thing in the middle to do the management of it, a universal audio... interface. You need an interface, right? I was thinking, all sound, all discussion of sound, all discussion of tone, all discussion of the perception of tone is all subjective.
Completely.
Like at the far end, you could probably say this is bad, i.e., the I don't know, something is terribly it's mismatched, or it's out of tune, or it's ugly to the ear, or there's a huge amount of crossover distortion, or whatever it is. You could agree among a bunch of people this is bad, right? But after that, it's purely personal taste.
Completely.
And so in which case then, why choose that stuff? And I think it's because whatever gets in your way the least.
Yeah.
And whatever enables the flow of creativity and of music, that's what you gravitate towards. And to make it relevant to our conversation again, what I find when I pick up most vintage guitars that I like playing, that happens. There's nothing in the way.
Yeah.
And I find that 10 minutes has gone past and I don't want to put the guitar down.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you're in a state of flow and you're conscious with whatever art it is you're producing. I appreciate it's a bit heady, but all the rest of it's subjective. It's like, what enables you to create? And that's what you should play.
Absolutely.
Because the moment you think about it, you're done. It's over. That's what I think. Was that a Steely Dan song?
Yeah, man.
Which song's that?
FM.
Okay.
It's such a cool song. I've learnt the sax solo. I sort of transcribed it on the guitar, and it's just like, I need to do more of that because it's so linear, so perfect, and the phrasing is so perfect. It's okay.
Nice.
It gets you out of your...
Robin used to talk a lot about that, didn't he?
Yeah.
About being influenced by saxophone. We did an April Fool on guitarist once called the saxophone. It was a pedal that when you switched it on, your guitar sounded exactly like a saxophone, which of course is entirely possible with MIDI. But for some reason, Simon Bradley decided he would be Scottish for the audio clip. Hey, welcome to the saxophone. You switch it on, so it's just like a sax. Oh, it was more innocent, wasn't it, years ago?
Yeah.
Everything was more innocent. You could just have a jovial jape.
Yeah.
And no one would tear you down or send you to prison for it. Good. Jonah Livingston. Hi, Jonah.
Hi, Jonah.
Jonah says, howdy, gents. My bandmate has an AC15. Would you pair that with a Fender Tweed amp? You can choose the model. A Marshall, you can choose the model, or something else that I don't know about. I've got a gig on Saturday. You guys are the best. Okay, so you're saying he's playing an AC15. What should you play?
Yeah.
Right? I think you should play whatever you like the most.
Yeah. And
to hell with everything else.
Yeah. One of the best examples I've seen of this is you and that Hendrix thing. There's a gig and there's 3 other guitar players on stage and they've all got Marshall stacks and they all sound great. Mick turns up with his fuzz pedal and his 2-rock and his Strat. And Mick sounded... authentic isn't the right word, but there was something that you were doing and tonally that everyone just went, oh, it was the sound of the night.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, it was you, it was your sound.
Yeah. I think with more learning and of years gone past, I probably would use a Marshall now because I know how to use it.
Yeah, but that's,
back then I didn't so much.
Sure.
And, or I wouldn't have had the balls to. Actually is the truth, but now I would. So I think you just got to play whatever you connect with. Tonally, obviously there's so much else happening. What guitars are you playing? What are the parts? What are your pedals? So I would play the thing that makes you happiest. Yeah.
Okay, so John is saying, just to clarify, what should my mate pair with his AC15 in his wet dry setup?
Oh, that's
The
a
AC15
different
is the wet
question.
amp for clarity. Okay, so what were the options then?
A Tweed,
Yeah.
a Marshall, or something else.
Well,
that I don't know
the
about.
Tweed is a great option with
It
the
is.
AC15.
It is.
Because if that's going to be the dry amp, I think that will work really well. Now, you could also, if you're happy with the AC15 and the AC15 has enough headroom, Tweed is perfect. Because the Tweed's going to break up at a lower volume, and they sound so sweet. I think that's a really great pairing.
I would hammer the AC15 and make it overdrive a lot, and then I would add a Marshall 2061 on a 212, which is a 20 watt Marshall with way more headroom than something like an AC15.
That's
and
great.
I would use that for my wet.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of those amps. It is a remaining living travesty that we do not have one.
yeah.
Let's get one.
Okay. Thomas Eichinger says, I pair my AC15 with the deluxe reverb.
Oh yeah,
And that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Or, we have the AC15 in here and we pair it with the Princeton sometimes, and it's a wonderful sound.
It does pair with most
It
things.
really does.
Yeah.
Really does.
Personally, I would go for something higher headroom because it dies a bit too early for me.
Yeah.
But again, that really depends on your volume, your stage volume, and how loud you're permitted.
But the little AC15 that we've got in there is such a killer amp. I love the reverb in it.
Sounds great.
Really cool.
Sounds-
Records beautifully.
It does record. It's very easy amp to record. That's for sure. Alex 241. Alex 241 says, Mick, I was wondering what your experiences you've had with Japanese Strats. I've heard good things, but not played one yet. Cheers. My first proper Strat was a Japanese guitar. It was a 70s reissue, 72 reissue, I guess they would have called it. The sort of cream colour, big headstock, rosewood board.
Speed holes.
My parents bought that for me when I was 14, I think 14th Christmas maybe, or birthday, can't remember. And I played that guitar right up until I joined Guitarist magazine. So
Wow.
I've been 23 when I joined Guitarist magazine, so almost 10 years. And it was, well, obviously it was my guitar, so I loved it dearly. And then as I joined Guitarist magazine, I got access to a lot more guitars a lot more frequently, and I started to really learn about guitars. And I started to understand some of what I perceived to be the shortcomings in that guitars, because I ended up playing lots and lots of Strats that were a different thing. Certainly a lot of the vintage reissue Strats, they've started importing them again to the UK in recent years, but back then it was quite a common thing for there to be a Japanese reissue Strat, like the 57 and the 62 style Strats, which always looked fantastic. I had two significant problems with them. One, they're usually always some sort of poly finish. And one of the things I've come to appreciate as the years go on is I just love nitrocellulose finishes for the way they look and feel. So there was that. I think there are some nitro ones out of Japan, but they're predominantly poly of some kind. Secondly, everything's in millimeters.
It's a metric, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to put American retrofit parts, sometimes that can be a problem. Bridge spacing, tuners, holes, all that kind of stuff. So those are the two issues I have, which is not to say that they're not fantastically brilliant guitars, and many people really love them. I'm just a sucker for the strict vintage spec American made instruments. I just am. I always have been since I've got to play more and more of them, and I think I always will be. So, but I always, whenever usually at some point during the day, I'll log on to Anderton's or Coda just to see what they've got in, or Guitar, and sometimes I'll see a Japanese Strat and I'm like, that is right, because the aesthetics. I think originally maybe they were made at Fujigen, were they, somewhere like that? And I actually met the guy that was in charge of the whole project, who was the liaison with Fender USA. Because again, I'll keep this brief, but in the late in the mid-80s, early mid-80s, CBS was, really doing terrible things at Fender. From a corporate point of view, there was plenty of people there that worked there that cared for CBS who cared more than that. And then famously, they sold out to a management buyout with Bill Schultz, a few other people. Dan Smith's name is big in there, and they started to reinvigorate Fender. But I think I'm almost right in saying that they didn't really own anything apart from the trademarks. So there was no real factory to speak of. And that by bringing out the Squier brand, by making Fender Japan, it was the bridge to which modern Fender was able to recover. So they're really important historically. And at the time, they were making much more historically correct Strats and Tellies than Fender USA could manage.
Right. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's the potted history of it. With might be a fact or two in there incorrect, but
factoids.
Yeah, I mean alternative facts. It's fine. It's the age we live in.
Definitely.
So I don't want any more guitars with poly finishes.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah, just from
Definitely
a personal.
Yeah.
Just from a personal thing.
David Evans says, "Hello, gents. I have a Fender 5A3 and a Bassman. I want to go wet dry. Which wet and which dry? Cheers from LA." Mr. Evans, your Bassman is going to be is going to have a lot more power than the 5A3 traditionally. So what we suggest people start with is using the amp that has more headroom for the wet effects and using the amp with less headroom for the dry. Reason being, the amp with more headroom, you're going to get more detail from your wet effects, and the amp with less headroom is going to remain the clarity from your pick attack and retain all that. And when you mix them together, beautiful things happen. Magical stars are created, babies are made. It's all wonderful.
I heartily concur. What a lovely rig.
Yeah. Yeah.
KH says, it seems the dust has settled for Venus. I see some people find it not as magic.
Sorry.
I see some people find it not as magic as it was in the beginning. What are your thoughts on that? I have the opposite. I didn't think it was magic in the beginning, and now I absolutely love it.
Yep.
It is a staple on my board, all the rehearsals I've been doing. It is utterly killer, and where I thought it was too similar to the Kingsley Balladeer, which I'm also using, it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
These things have their jobs. They're similar enough to be, what's the right word? Complementary. So it's not like stepping on a DS1 and something that's completely not in the same game. But I am leaning on it really heavy. It cleans up. It has an overdrive character that I dig, and I am a massive fan of it, I have to say. So there you go.
Robert Keeley's in.
Hey, Robert.
How are you, buddy? I said baby's made. Yes, that's when the magic happens. Yeah, completely agree. What we found was that you had to give the pedal a moment to warm up. When we first started playing it, we plugged it in, turned it on, was like, oh, okay. But then after a few minutes, it seemed and I don't remember exactly what valve they're using in there, but after a few minutes, it came up to temperature, and then it was like awesome. So you got to make sure that the power supply you're using has enough grunt to power the pedal.
Yeah.
But then, after it had been on the board for a while and we came back to it, it was like, oh, it was really open and really sounds wonderful.
I'm digging it. I am really digging it. Thomas Eichinger. Hey, Thomas. Thomas says, hey all, Cardinal Black are coming to Vienna in November.
Yeah, wow.
Looking forward to seeing Chris Buck in action. No question today. Please take one from the chat. We will, Thomas. Thank you.
Yeah, I've been, they've been busy selling out shows all over America, and they're doing so great. I'm just so pleased for them. They're working really hard. They're just constantly writing and recording and touring, and it's just great. They've gone old school with it, Brilliant.
In what sense, old school?
Well, and old school, they're touring.
Oh, I see.
You know, they're actually they're out there
Actually playing gigs.
riding, and really doing it. It's really wonderful.
Nice. Okay, so courtesy of Thomas Eichinger, Primal Sense says, "Hi guys, greetings from Mexico. Hello to Mexico.
Hello.
Quick, maybe old question. Any thoughts on solo volume boost on a 20-watt amp?"
Oh, very interesting.
Okay, it depends how loud you've got the 20-watt amp. If it's already at its point of overdrive, the power section is doing as much as it can do, the output transformer is doing as much as it can do, no, there's no boost available because the amp is at its maximum capacity. The only thing you can really do there is turn the bass down.
Yeah.
And really push the upper mids. So if you were to use a treble booster, for example, and some treble boosters can sound almost as angular as a cocked wah-wah. That's the other thing you could do. Get a wah-wah, cock it right in the position where it's super, super nasal. That will give you an audible cut in the mix.
Yeah.
It won't be any louder, but it will be all the frequencies that the amp is taking up to make it sound fat and big and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You take all that away, it's got more, and then plus the EQ curve change, that will make it far more audible.
Yeah.
But the same sound louder, more efficient speaker.
Yeah. The other thing that you can try, and I'm a big fan of this, is using an underdrive at the end of your gain stage.
Perfect.
And having that as your main rhythm sound, and then turn that off and, have the amp as, for the louder, cleaner solo sound. It's really interesting when you get the amp working, you don't need all of that distortion. So many of those gain sounds that we listen to. I've been listening to a lot of Steve Lukather lately, and he goes through very different periods in his tone.
Yeah.
But some of those sounds, man, the Moises app where you get rid of everything else and you can just hear the guitar. It's like some of those sounds that you think are really heavily distorted, they're almost clean.
Say the same thing about Angus Young all the time, don't we?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's just the way that he plays. It's like there's got so much energy and vibe to it. And so...
And don't forget, it's gone through like £1 million worth of studio gear.
Exactly. So
lovely compressors and all the rest of it, and a bit of analog tape saturation, etc., etc.
Yeah. So I think an underdrive is a really good thing. Another thing...
Just to explain that, if you don't know what an underdrive is, you basically crank the amp to its point of maximum loudness, and that might not be everything on 10, it might be everything on 7 or 6. You then use a pedal to turn it down.
Yeah.
So you have the master volume on the pedal set lower, you have the pedal on for your cleaner and rhythmy type sounds, and then when you want your solo sound and the maximum volume from the amp and the amp tone, turn that pedal off, everything gets louder.
Yeah.
It's a subtle twist.
Yeah, but a graphic equalizer is a really great way to do this. So you can turn the master volume down, but you can also tweak the EQ. So it might be that with the input into the amp reduced, that the amp loses a bit more mids or a bit more bass or whatever. So you can compensate for that with your EQ, and then when you turn that off, the amp's back to all its glory, and you can use that for your solo tone. But mix exactly right. If you've got your amp singing, the only real way to lift that for a solo tone is reduce the amount of bottom end that's going into it. Treble boosters, EQs, cocktails are a great way to do it, because what that means is the amp has less bottom end it needs to reproduce and amplify. And when it's amplifying that bottom end, that's where all the energy goes. So if you get rid of that bottom end and mids and treble, then it will cut. So that or the underdrive is what we would suggest.
Willful Thinker says, where is the underdrive in the chain? Potentially anywhere.
Yeah.
As long as you don't have a really loud pedal after it. But you can just have any of your gain stages, if you like, for it. I mean, if you're using it purely as an underdrive, I would have it probably last in the gain stage
Yeah.
list. So if you wanted an overdriven sound but quieter, you could use it for that as well, because the pedals before would be creating all the overdrive and you just turn it down. Basically, like, I mean, in a way you're using it like a master volume, really.
Yeah.
You're almost using it like a volume pedal.
And to that end, you could put it, if you're using an EQ pedal to do this job, you could put the EQ pedal the very last thing in the chain and do it that way. So therefore, it is like a master volume, and you're not changing the gain structure going into delays and wet effects as well. The only thing to be aware of when you're doing this is that if you have your amp set up so that with the underdriver off and the amp is loud, if the amp is limiting, then all of your wet effects will become louder because the amp is going to be limiting more. So it's a subtle.
Yeah.
You got to get that balance right.
Yeah.
The best way to use it is with your amp set up to be loudest, most clean, most open, and there's your solo sound, and then put your underdrive at the end, back from there.
Yeah. Because what could happen when you switch your overdriver on is it doesn't get any quieter at all. It just gets less drivey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Could even potentially get louder. We've got amps that get louder when you turn them down because they're crapping out so much when they're full on. And KH finally says, what about in the effects loop for the underdrive pedal? Yes, with a caveat, as long as the loop isn't sending too much level to the pedal to overdrive it.
Yeah.
So some overdrive pedals just don't sit that well in loops because they get too much signal from
the signal coming in will actually make the lowest gain setting on it just.
But if you had something like a 24 volt Hudson Broadcast, something like that, that would probably do an adequate job of that.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be sticking a tube screamer or anything else in an effects loop. It'll just be like.
Well, funnily enough, I don't even think I've got one here. Actually, years ago, I designed something to do that very job. I don't have one in here. That would sit in your effects loop and give you a couple of extra master volumes, because it's a real problem. I don't have one here. That's over the road. The thing called an underliner, so a line level underdriver that sits in the effects loop.
Yep.
But that
Oh, of course, yeah.
yeah, that does that sort of thing.
Good. Right. How are we doing? Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up. Oh, Daniel Mincher. Hey, Daniel.
Hey, Daniel.
Hope you're doing well. He says, evening, Legends. Take a cue from the chat. But how good is Kingfish Chris Tone?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What's his name? Kingfish? Chris Kingfish something or other, is it?
Yeah, that.
Somebody help. He's a unit.
Yeah, he's great.
Right, so let's... okay, Mark Schneeberger. Hey, Mark Schneeberger says, Dan, what's your preferred fretboard material? Do you hear or feel a big difference between red and butters?
Yes, absolutely. I've always loved really nice rosewood, dark rosewood. But I remember playing in Tin Spirits with playing Dave Gregory's. Got one of those white SGs with 3 pickups in them. What are they called? The
Custom.
The custom.
Custom 3 pickup.
Custom 3.
It's still got the tagger on it.
And that's got
Rose,
ebony fingerboard on it. And I always thought that guitar sounded spectacular.
Okay.
But I prefer rosewood. But it depends on the job, right? And actually, I don't play butters as much as I should. It's a really wonderful sounding guitar. And for that particular Blackguard Tele sound, it's superb.
So it's number one feel for me.
Yeah.
So I just like the feel of rosewood over maple, especially if there's any lacquer on it, which there would be on a vintage type Fender. Don't tend to find maple fingerboards on Gibsons, although they have existed. So it's a feel thing first. Second, people will dispute this. I perceive the biggest difference to be where the mid-range sits. And on Strats anyway, and Strats with humbuckers in particular, you do get this slightly more aggressive mid-range, I find, on maple board.
Really?
Yeah, and that could have to do with other things as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I do notice it a bit. To wit, I have a guitar incoming from Dean Cutler, which is taking shape nicely, with a maple board and mini humbuckers for that very purpose.
I can't wait to hear that.
It's looking really cool. We
Yeah.
we talked about it last couple of days. He's
Amazing.
finished the body. Orange sparkle. And he's like, how much do you want it relicked? I'm like, actually not much.
Yeah.
Let's just go for a journeyman.
I love that.
Bit of check-in.
I think Journeyman's right.
Yeah. Bit of check-in, maybe a ding or two.
Yeah.
But I don't want a heavy relic. And I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm
Nice.
really looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. But everything else like vintage spec, so Strat pick guards, 7 1/4 radius board, vintage style Strat trem. Because the trouble is once you get into super Strats, as it were. Sorry, this is a tangent. Everything starts to become modern, and I don't personally want that. You know. Anyway, sorry. The question was for Dan. Thing is, though, all bets are off, aren't they, with Red? Because Red sounds so unusual as a guitar.
Yeah, it does.
You know, people will say things that aren't true, like maple board telly sound brighter. Red is among the brightest tellies I've ever heard.
Yeah, it really is.
In a good way. In a good way. I've heard ones that sound plasticky bright and not very nice. Red sounds organically bright
Yeah.
and alive.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, someone was asking me about the Red pickups. We may do another set, but at the moment they're limited in number. So if you're after a set of Red's pickups, we may do another run of them, but at this stage we're looking at just keeping them limited. I think the amount of work that goes into getting them exactly right, it's very labor intensive. So I think we're going to just at this stage maybe put some brackets around it. So if after a set of Red pickups, jump in while they're still
Get
there.
on
There's
it.
a few sets.
Get on it. They're
left.
available from Monty's
Yeah.
in the UK. Daniel Mincher and BV have confirmed that it's Christone Ingram.
Oh, cool.
The sales manager on Metal Hammer magazine was called Chris Ingham. Oh, Ingram, different. There we go.
David Evans says, Dan, how about Travis Bean, aluminium fretboards? I have only ever played a couple of those guitars. A customer once bought in an original Travis Bean, and they're so cool, like really, really cool. But what gets me is they're cold,
Yeah.
and it's like
Cold to the touch.
cold to the touch.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like a very, very cool thing, and that the customer just loved that guitar, and it did sound exceptional.
I'm gonna I know it's not an aluminium neck or fingerboard or whatever it is, but I am going to buy a Trussart one day.
Oh yeah, they're wonderful.
Everyone I've played, I've really dug those guitars.
I remember seeing Paul Stacey live at the Six, and he always sounds amazing, but at the end of the night he pulled out his Trussart Tele, and it was the sound of the gig.
I dig them.
Yeah,
I dig 'em.
very
Always
cool
dig 'em.
guitars.
Niklas Seger says, guys, thanks for a fantastic show. Is it Austrian audio microphones you've been using lately to mic the amps? Most lately, it's been a combination of Sontronics Delta 2 ribbons and AKG D190E dynamics. And that's a sort of stylistic choice. I tend to put both up so that I can firstly make a decision which one I like the best depending on what the amps are. So the tweeds, I think, just benefit from a bit of extra sizzle from the mic directly. Secondly, if we're setting up in a hurry and we haven't got time to really pinpoint the position of the mics perfectly, having two mics really helps, because it might be that you just prefer the EQ of one compared to the other. And I try not to do any post EQs. Long time since we've done any post EQing. So what you hear is what you hear. And then, you know, if you like this mic best, then mix this one 80% and that one 20. And then you just get a bit of body from the second mic. Tim Pierce done great videos on this, but it's an old trick. So that generally that plus the stereo room mics, which are 2 AKG C414s, but sometimes, depending on the amp type, I will use the Austrian Audio OC18s, and I've also got a pair. We have also got a pair of OD5s, which is their phantom powered dynamic mic. So just whatever I feel is going to be right for that amp, we'll do it. Again, I'll cover this in the vlog when I do it, but what I've learned in 10 years of recording guitars week in, week out, clearly mics matter, clearly they do.
Absolutely.
But I don't think they matter quite as much as 18 pages of discussion on a forum. What matters most is you get whatever you've got and you use it.
Yeah.
And you discover that by moving it 0.5 centimetre that way makes that change. By moving it 0.5 centimetre that way makes this change. That your your phantom powered ribbon mic into a Neve 1073 requires 20 dB extra attenuation. You know, all this stuff you just don't know till you start getting it wrong.
That's right.
And of course, on top of all of that, you can't go wrong with an SM57.
No.
As long as you've got an additional room mic. But so yeah, I love the Austrian Audio OC18s. They're like a large diaphragm capacitor mic. Love AKG C414 another large diaphragm capacitor mic. But particularly loving the mix of a decent ribbon and a dynamic in age-old style, right? How many great recordings have been made with a Royal 121 and an SM57. And then, as Tim Pierce says, you can just pick the one you like the most and use the other one just for a bit of body. And I think that works really well.
Yeah.
So, but I would almost say every time we record, given that the setup is the same week in, week out, right? I still learn something. I'm like, that's what that does.
Oh man, I think it's the reason that I still, you know, we've been doing this 10 years now. I'm still, every time we film, there's still something that goes, okay. And what's been very interesting, and I don't know if you've found this, but now that we're both in other musical projects and that they're doing stuff, it's like taking all of this stuff and then applying it to different genres and different things. It's like, there's still so much to learn about all of this stuff.
Always. And you've got to just get it wrong.
And it's the only way.
There's no substitute, unfortunately, for getting it wrong, and that is such a frustrating. I mean, there's many shows that have gone out that, you know, I would send Dan a text like completely stressing out about it, going, look mate, on any other day I would not put this out, it's just not good enough. And then you're like, let it go, please let it go. Otherwise you end up like, I'm not going to mention any names, but 2 records in 25 years, you know, you've just got to let it go, and you've got to learn and be happy to learn and be happy to get it wrong. And we're still getting it wrong all the time. Yeah. So I hope that comes across in everything we do. It's not like this is the way to do it and this is right. It's, hey, look, we're all learning.
Yeah,
and we're always learning.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah, and you do the best you can do at this moment in time in good faith. This is the best I can do.
Yep.
It's
so interesting, man. I was thinking about this the other day because it's like, you know, was it 5 years to get 4 songs recorded on my EP? It's spectacular. But it is that thing, is like, if I was doing it now, I'm confident that I'd do it a lot faster because I'd be a lot more willing just to let stuff go. But I worked it up into this big thing, and don't get me wrong, I'm really pleased with it. And it's been, for me, it's like, you know, probably will never do this again, and it's been worth putting all the time and energy into it. But there is part of me that is thinking, just carry on and do something, and just in the moment, and whatever happens in the moment,
Do
make
it
that a
and move
thing,
on.
and then move on, something else.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Once you get the confidence to start doing that, you'll also find that what you do is much better because you're sweating it less.
Yeah, right. That's very interesting.
But better better's not a very helpful word. Eagle Ray Rob, hey Rob,
mate.
Good to hear from you. He says, Mick, I love the sound of API preamps for miking electric guitar cabs. Love Neve too. Have you ever recorded cabs with API pre's? I have. And again, it's one of these things where you can buy all the plugins, you can read all the forums, but until you've done it, you're like, oh, that's what API sounds like. That's what Neve sounds like.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's so true.
It's too reductive, right, to say that's what API sounds like. But yeah, I do, and I love it. And if we had loads of money, I'd be buying a whole bunch of API pre's. So as the alternative, I know quite a few people that say Neve for drums, API for guitars, but whatever. API, I think. Tell me if you disagree or agree. A little faster, a little more transient, a little more exciting. Neve, warm, round, fat, vintage. Massive generalization there, because I'm talking about 1073s and there's many other many
That was
other
on the
Neve
other
things.
day.
Was it? I haven't. We're talking about Police Academy, so it's a massive generalization. But again,
That's funny.
back to this whole thing about sound being subjective.
Yeah.
What allows the flow? Hello,
Hey,
Rosie.
baby.
How you
Come
doing?
see me this time.
What's going on?
Hi.
Rosie's like,
Head there, come on.
look,
Come on, come
this
see
is
me.
all very well, but
Come on.
it's probably a word
on.
that I'm not going
Come
to
on.
say. Isn't it, Rose?
Come on up. Come on.
She's like, it's a long way up, Dan.
Come on.
I'm nearly
I gotcha.
5 now.
Come on, baby.
I'm nearly 5 now, she's
Come on.
saying.
Good
oh,
girl.
Bless you, Rosie.
Good girl.
Good girl.
Hey,
Well done.
princess.
Well done.
Your favourite spaniel.
Good. Sorry, we're getting tangenty again.
Okay, darling. Good girl.
Plexico. He's saying, oh, maybe this is a bookend for the super chats. Not quite, Duncan. Sorry, buddy. Thank you, mate. Thanks for your continued generosity. KJ Photo. I moved the volume pot on my Strat towards the 5-way to make Get Out. How dare you? I'm joking, of course.
joking, of course.
KJ
But
Photo
not get
says,
too closer.
I've moved the volume pot on my Strat towards the 5-way to make it more playable for me. Hope I didn't break some secret Strat code. Cheers from the Big Apple.
I would do the same thing.
I know 2 people that are going to agree with you there.
Yeah. One being me.
And the other one being Simon.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, who used to film for us. So you've moved it that way. Yeah. Some people just can't deal with it right there. And if you've grown up on that guitar,
Yep.
or this one,
Yeah.
it's very easy to see why, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, look, it's right there. And if your playing position is above the bridge pickup or the bridge, no chance of hitting it there. Every chance of hitting it there. And I think, right, that's why, on a lot of heavy hitting Strat players, where's the wear?
Oh, because they've got to get out of the road.
Philip Ace, massive,
Oh,
great
yes, okay.
divot in his guitar there. Scott McKeon, massive, great divot in his guitar there. And if you watch a Strat player, quite often, watch Matt Schofield.
Yeah.
That's the action.
But he is here. Like, he's tonally...
But if he's here, he's
right back there. That sounded good. Go again.
But what he's never doing, right, is this.
No, that's right.
Which is what you do on a Strat and on a Tele and a Les Paul,
yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
So I totally get it. Yeah, I get it. There have been Strats with only two things as well.
Yeah, the Biffy Simon Neil's. I think it might even just be a volume control. Can't quite remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, why not? KJ Photo. Simon VRDJ is in with another one. I'm just doing this to annoy Duncan Plexico. Bless you, buddy. He says, damn, I'll try again for the second TPS bookend. Duncan, almost, but Todd Weiss, I'm just going to check, I think may have pipped you to that post. Yeah. Todd Weiss has pipped you to the post, although I don't see a super chat. I'm just going to check to see if there is one. Not yet, but we'll check in a sec. Yes. Yes. Steve says apparently Steve Howe will move the Strat volume knob.
Really?
On the rare occasion that he may play a Strat.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess because Steve Howe on a Switchmaster, they had a Switchmaster, an original Switchmaster
Really?
at ATB, and I was playing it, and I was all emotional. Yeah, man.
Yeah, James.
I would love to have Steve on the show. I have so many questions for him. How can he play a Switchmaster into two Fender Twins, no pedals, that are so loud, they are so distorted, and with just the most epic sound? Go and have, there's an amazing video, Yes Songs, and his tone on that is just extraordinary. No pedals. Fender Twins cranked with a Switchmaster, no feedback problems. It's like, that's not a thing. Unbelievable. Yeah, I would love to have him on the show.
Yeah. Okay, Dro Gregorian says, Dan and Mick, greetings from Los Angeles. Any thoughts on the Marshall Studio Vintage SV20 tonally? Is it up to a par with traditional plexis?
Oh, I think tonally they're fantastic. Traditional plexis is a different thing, though. Huh? It's a hard question. I think if you were to crank and mic both and record them in a nice way, I think you could say that the tone of the Studio SV20 is great, and they do sound great. They do sound great.
And one of the things I really love about them is if you do have a 50 watt or 100 watt plexi, you can't really, well, 50 watts you can, but 100 watts you can't really crank them anymore, not in any environment that I play in. So if I take I'm going to take 100 watt to one gig I'm doing this this summer, which I am going to crank, and we'll see what the sound guy says, but what the sound engineer says, and we'll see if it's possible. But generally in my world it's not possible to crank 100 watt Marshall. SV20, of course you can crank it. Well,
yeah.
Some people will say you can't, but I would think you can. If you're sat next to anyone with a snare drum and a kick drum, you can crank it. So in that sense, yes. However, the difference with a traditional 100 watt plexi especially, and some 50s, is the weight. And you just don't get the weight out of the 20 watts.
You're talking about the weight of the note. Yeah, I agree.
And the headroom.
So a friend of ours I was conversing with on the weekend, who has acquired the Marshall that we were using on the show.
Oh yeah,
and had
yeah.
the same reaction that I had to it. And it's so interesting, the question about, can you honestly get the sound of a 100 watt Marshall at a lower volume? Because there are so many elements in that chain would need to be...
You can record it, you can digitally model it, you can create it in software to the point where you are splitting hairs to A-B it in a mix.
Right.
I think anyone who's really heard one will be able to identify it instantly, but that's not where the biggest difference is. The biggest difference is when you're stood next to it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
And what it's doing.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. So this friend of ours texted me and just went, holy poo.
Yeah.
This thing is... And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, but that's this, like, that experience with that modded Marshall, whatever you call it.
The 59 mod, it's called.
Yeah.
I think 1959 mod.
And hearing that at volume was like, well, that's it. That's the sound. But it's not, when I say sound, it's like, that's the experience. That's the experience that when I heard it, I went, I know what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't get me wrong, I've got that 20-watt Marshall thing that I've got, the Mallard. Great sounding thing. But but you describe it as the weight, and I think that's a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah. Like, really prosaically and fundamentally, let's say you've got a clean sound, right? We're not even talking about overdrive. Let's say you've got a clean sound. The 20 watt on the clean sound, if you play this note and it's putting out 85 dB, it's not going to react with the guitar and the speaker.
It's fundamental.
And the harmonics and the overtones created. And I'm not saying this is better or worse or anything. I'm just saying it as a pure fact.
Yep. Facts.
Then this note is not doing the same thing on that clean sound at a low volume.
Yep.
It's just not. Now, if we up that to 102 dB, which is what it would be in a plexi for a clean sound, or 105, this note is fundamentally different because of the harmonics created via the reaction with the speaker and the guitar. So, cranked, all that, overdrive sound, yeah, great. Much harder to discern, I think. And I think you can get the smaller ones to sound really, really great recorded, and they are way, way easier to record than the big ones.
Yep.
But if you're the kind of player that stands there at your gig, and I appreciate I'm talking about a world that barely exists anymore, unfortunately. If what you like to do is stand next to your amp and play this chord, and let it hang, and the thing to develop and to happen, and your delays and reverbs to go on, it doesn't work at 20 watts.
Yeah, it's so true.
Unless you've got really great front of house and you've got great on-stage monitoring.
Yeah.
But if you've grown up in an era where those notes and tones and harmonics and interactions happen, it just can't be done at low volume. It doesn't exist at low volume.
Yeah.
And I am not, please understand me, I'm not saying that is any worse or better. It's not a pejorative statement. It's to say it is different.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of people that just don't want that. They want a 20 watt cranked, so it's not doing that.
Yeah.
So it's about what do you want?
Yeah. Or they want a very quiet sound that doesn't interact with the guitar.
Yeah, because that's too much.
Exactly.
It's too much.
It's too much.
Too much.
Yeah.
Mucky muck.
The difference being there's a reaction between the guitar and the amplifier at volume, which fundamentally changes things, whether you like it or not. But I think we find it very exciting. We find it when that starts to happen and that connection is made, things come out. I generally will describe it like when that connection is happening, things come out that I haven't practiced.
Yeah.
You know, because this sound leads you in a certain direction. The guitar is resonating.
Yeah.
And it's almost saying, we want to go here now. And your job is to get out of the way and let it do its thing. And that's a really fun place to be.
It is an amazing place to be. I will just say finally on the SV20, it's so much easier to live with.
Completely.
You stick it in here, crank it up, get a fantastic overdrive sound.
Yep.
Very, very enjoyable and not be hurting. Can't do that with the 100 watt. You just can't do it. It's hurty.
Yeah.
So, yeah. David Daziel saying didn't like Robin's tone in Glasgow last night.
Didn't like it.
No, that's a shame. Like we say, all subjective, isn't it?
Completely.
Yeah.
Thought it sounded fantastic on Thursday night.
Yeah. Dro Gregorian again is saying, what's your favourite bright cap value on a plexi? I feel the stock 47 is too harsh. I don't have a lot of experience. In R50, I prefer no bright cap at all.
Yeah.
In the 100, I think maybe a... well, you're saying 41, 47, so it would be a 10.
Right.
Or 100. I'm never sure which. But a smaller cap, basically. I've got none in there at the moment, and I just feel it could do with a tiny bit of extra.
Okay.
Because it affects the trebles through the overdrive as well.
Yeah.
So I might stick one of those in there. There we are. Good. Thank you for being with us. This Friday will be a good old challenge video.
That was fun.
I'm trying to remember who it was set by, and I will remember in a minute. But it was a 2-knob challenge, so you've got to pick 4 pedals.
2 knobs, picking knobs.
Only with 2 knobs. You say maximum of 2 knobs on a pedal. Dan
Cheated.
Dan went to the edge of the rule bending fence. So yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. Gordon Rankin's saying 47 picofarads is so small, so 22 or 10 are pretty much none. Yeah, we probably got our values wrong, Gordon. Maybe it's 4700. Because if you have a look up what the bright cap in a proper plexi is, it's crazy. And so much so that I have amp designer friends who reckon it was a mistake.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm going to say yeah.
Moon says, just 2 knobs, no guests. Matthew Collis Long, evening groins. Hey Matthew, we were mentioning your be-mulleted offspring earlier with great respect. Hope you well, buddy. Yeah, good. All right. So now Daniel will play us out. I was thinking about some interpretive mime, but maybe we'll save that. Come on, mime is money. Good. Okay, everyone. Thank you very much. Josh Tarnberg says, I'm a latecomer, but Prost. Prost to you, buddy. Come on then, Dan. Play us out there. See you Friday. Thanks for being here, everyone. I'm feeling a new creative direction. Double shaker.
That's a weird groove. I dig it. It's like
Could sing a song about trains.
God, do it.
Train's been cancelled. See you next week.